My name is Tiisetso Maloma. Well, welcome to the Innovate Next Masterclass. I've been an entrepreneur in South Africa for 10 years. I've indulged in so many businesses. I would say I was crazy enough to almost do all the things that all the things that I ever wanted to do. I've been a DJ. I've been an accountant, of course. That's by schooling. I've been a clothing designer. I've done events. I'm in publishing currently, and a couple of other businesses. And parallel to me being an entrepreneur, I've always been writing and researching about entrepreneurship. And at this moment has led me to researching about innovation, which I've been doing for it's been what? It's been just slightly over 2 years. So that's what inspired this masterclass, Innovate Next, of which it's the next. It's the title to my next book. So my next book is going to be called Innovate Next. Now, this masterclass touches on innovation using evolutionary biology as like an analogy. How this came about is that I got introduced to evolutionary psychology, and let me call it evolutionary biology. So I was studying and researching and reading a lot about that, and reading through that, I just noticed that there's quite a number of similarities between man-made innovation and biological innovation. I've written some notes here, so I just want to make sure that I don't skip anything of importance. All right. So tonight we'll be covering the following topics: how to become an innovator, innovating the future, as you being the innovator, why innovations mirror biology, and understanding the 4IR. Like I'll be giving what I think it's the easiest way to understand what is the 4IR, because I've seen it's like a hot topic that everyone is talking about, but a lot of people really do find it hard to really understand what is it or what is it about. You know what? It took me many years to sort of realize what my talent is. And in hindsight, looking at the books that I've written, I've got 5 books so far. The Anxious Entrepreneur, Forget the Business Plan, Use This Short Model, Township Biz Adjacent, Township Biz Fast Track, and Tales of an African Entrepreneur. What I realized is that I'm good at noting patterns and forming frameworks of understanding things. So this what sort of the upcoming book is about, and well, this masterclass. So in this masterclass, I'll be sharing sort of frameworks we can use to understand innovation and also become innovators. I just want to put a disclaimer out there. I'm not a scientist, but I'll be talking about a lot of evolutionary biology. I might get some of the details wrong in terms of dates. Maybe say when was the world started. So, but in a nutshell, this masterclass serves as a framework of understanding innovation and how you can become an innovator. All right, let's start. Your ability to innovate and create things is a gift from biology. This is, as human beings, we have this gift of being able to create man-made innovations. We can make cars, we can make computers. As you can see, there's a lot of innovation in the world, and we are the only organism in the biology sphere that can make things like cars. All other animals or organisms cannot do that. So we've got this cognition that's able to do that. Evolutionary biology explains how humans got to where they are today, in that we evolved, meaning we started from somewhere, and over billions of years we got to this form known to us as human beings, or as Homo sapiens, as some put it. So the biology says the world formed over 4 billion years ago, and the first organism, because biology explains living things as organisms. Human beings are also organisms. So it explains that the first organisms formed about 3.8 billion years ago, and through that they evolved and even branched out. In the biology kingdom, we've got bacteria, we've got archaea, we've got protists, we've got fungi, and then we've got animals. We as human beings fall under animals. So biology explains us as animals. So that's how we got to be. So we evolved over those billions of years, 3.8 first life forming. We evolved until we got to here today. And also the science says human beings have been around for over 300 years. So evolution, anything that's alive keeps being alive, or keeps being alive by reproducing. So reproducing is a survival mechanism. We human beings, we are only here on earth for a number of years, but we reproduce to keep staying alive. So over all those years, from coming up as an organism, we've been surviving. Bacteria has been around for 3 billion or so years, and it's been surviving. So we branched off from, because the first life was a single cell organisms. Well, a single cell organism, and human beings are a multi-cell organism. So life came about from as a single cell, and it evolved to a multi-cell, and as human beings we came out from the branch of multi-cell organisms. With this, I'm saying that the mind that we have, that's able to create cars and innovate all these sort of things, is a gift from biology. So sometimes we disassociate man-made innovations, cars, from biology, but biology enabled man to have a cognition, or rather to have a mind that can innovate. So the association with man-made innovation and biological innovation is that biology made us, and also it gave us a mind that can create innovations. Like as human beings, we've created things, and we keep innovating. You can imagine from the first industrial revolution, where really men got to mass producing a lot of things so that other people in the world could consume them. We've innovated quite a lot to even today. Like today we are live on all these social medias. So okay, my notes almost escaped me a bit there. Let me do this. All right. So we've got that covered, that we evolved to get here, and this mind we have is a biological gift. Biology gave us this mind, and with this mind we can innovate. So the reason innovations become successful is that they serve man, meaning they meet our inclination. For example, when you love a movie, it's because maybe it excites you, or it makes you sad, or it makes you reminiscent of something. So you think of a movie as something that's away from biology, but you enjoy that movie, or it could be a product, because of your biological inclinations linked to that movie. So anything that a man creates, it must mirror his biological inclination. let me give maybe a silly example. Sex. We've got an inclination for sex, and because all man-made innovations must mirror our biological inclinations. All products that are about sex, could be porno, it could be toys, they are successful because they meet up an inclination in us that's biological. So, like, they meet us on a biological sphere. So with this, I'm saying that for an innovation to be successful, even a man-made innovation, a synthetic thing, a movie, which is like a sort of an artificial product, for it to be successful, it has to mirror our biological inclinations. Another example I'll give of sugar. The biology, or rather evolutionary biology, says that we got a sweet tooth because we evolved, meaning our ancestors used to eat sugar, but for survival purposes. If you look, there are maybe sweet fruits. They've got fructose and they've got glucose. Those things give energy. So there was a point where our ancestors used to consume sweet things because they gave them energy. And what's energy? Glucose and fructose. Fructose is like fat, and we need both to survive. Sugar gives us energy. And maybe the distinction why we got to loving sweet things is that bitter fruits can, some of the bitter fruits are poisonous. Not all, but you can imagine if it was 1,000 years ago, it was an easy distinction to make, that okay, this plant or this fruit is sweet, so therefore the bitter one normally has poison. I'd rather eat the sugary one, which is not poisonous. So that's how we developed the sweet tooth. Over that, we evolved to have that sweet tooth until, well, man can innovate, meaning we discovered how to make processed sugar. So because we've got this mind that can create synthetic things that mirror our biology, someone discovered, okay, shit, now I've created this, I can make processed sugar. Okay, with processed sugar, I can mass produce it and get it all over the world. And unlike with fruits, you have to plant them and they take time. So because we've got this innovative mind, we can substitute what biology can create. So we can make synthetic things so that we mass produce them. And that's where really entrepreneurship comes in. So because we innovate, we create things that man is inclined to love, and because they're inclined to love, even, well, can imagine from sugar came a lot of products. So we innovated processed sugar. From processed sugar, we further innovated a lot of products. We've got muffins, we've got candy, we've got all these sorts of products, and their success is because they mirror biology, they mirror our biological inclination. I've got a saying that in biblical terms it says God made man in his image, and I say that man must innovate in his image, or otherwise his innovations fail. So in his image, I mean that all innovations that he make must mirror his biological inclinations. If sugar mirrors our biological inclinations, successful movies mirror inclination in that they touch us emotionally to a point wherein we watch them and we recommend those movies to other people. So any product that you can even think of, even Facebook, even Instagram, even Zoom, on some level they mirror our biological inclinations. That's why we use them daily, because they give us there's an emotional connection. Even if it's just like I'm doing this webinar now, it's giving me some sort of utility, because innovation also has to give utility. So it's giving me utility to communicate to a lot of people, and that's an inclination. Like everyone likes communicating to, well, not everyone, but people in general, we like communicating to a lot of people. So social media or technology is an enabler in letting us communicate with a lot of people. So it satisfies our inclination to an extent. So I'm going to use YouTube in explaining in innovation, because how the history of YouTube has got such nuance that it enables a lesson to come through. So, but first, let me explain one of the inspirations for me sort of getting into researching about innovation from a biological context. So a couple of years ago, I was reading a book called Where Good Ideas Come From by Stephen Johnson. So in it, I came across a concept called the adjacent possible. So this adjacent possible comes from it's got its genesis through biology. It was discovered by Dr. Stuart Kaufman, who's a biological theorist. So he was explaining biology in terms of how it got to where we are today. So the adjacent possible says that it says that at any given moment, there are tools or there are innovations that can create something that's not there already. I'll give an example. I'll give a biological context. So I think I'll give two examples. So how the biology says we got here is that about over 3 billion years ago, in the first daughters of Earth, they formed life, and the first life was a single cell organism. And to give an example, a single cell organism, well, bacteria is a single cell organism. So the first life were single cell organisms, and those single cell organisms, they sort of conjugated or performed some sort of incest, or they married, and their marriage ended up in forming multicellular organisms or multi-cell organisms. So life began with single cell organisms, and those single cell organisms married and created multicellular organisms. Like in the biology kingdom, there are six kingdoms. So it's bacteria and archaea. So only those two are single cellular organisms, and the rest, which are protists, fungi, animals, and might be forgetting the other ones. It's protists, fungi, animals, and what's the other one? I'll remember it. But life began with single cell organisms, and those single cell organisms married to create multicellular organisms, because human beings, we've got a lot of cells in our bodies. So evolution over the years, over 3 billion years, evolved to having multicellular organisms until finally having humans, which we are a multicellular organisms. By this I'm saying that those over 3 billion years ago, maybe nature didn't know that there will be multicellular organisms, but with those multicellular organisms, even before they matched, they gave a possibility that there would be multicellular organisms. So the adjacent possible at that stage when they met is that there will be other organisms outside single cellular organisms. I'll give another example, still with a biological context. 2 billion years ago, there wasn't enough oxygen, or rather molecular oxygen, for humans to survive. And as life began in the oceans, what it meant that was that organisms in the oceans were evolving outside the oceans to land, and that includes plants. Oh, but plants, by the way, is the sixth kingdom on the biology tree. So by plants going outside the oceans and going onto land, they were giving a possibility for something that will be animals, that will be humans, to be possible one day. So at that moment, when the molecular oxygen was rising, 2 billion years later, there would be things called human beings. So at any stage, even now, with whatever innovation that there is today, fusing that, because you'd understand from the example I gave with single cell organisms, so they married. So now it means that innovation is a marriage of one or more. So it's a marriage of two or more things to create something that's not there, to create something that's novel. So 2 billion years ago, when the molecular oxygen was rising because plants were getting out of the oceans to form photosynthesis, which is really what's majorly responsible for the oxygen that we breathe today, was an adjacent possible to what could be. So maybe let me go to YouTube to furtherly explain this adjacent possible concept. Right. Okay, let me just accept some more participants on Zoom here. Okay. So, well, in a nutshell, the adjacent possible means that at any given moment, whatever is available, whatever is of existence, whatever innovation is available, mixing those existing innovations can create something new. So you as an innovator, we should always be looking at, okay, with whatever is available, what can we create that has never been there? So because you cannot create something new out of something that doesn't exist. I'll give an example. I think maybe this is a silly one, but I think it makes sense. Think of chairs. What is a chair? Like if we let's break down what a chair is in a context of the adjacent possible. Remember, I said innovation is a marriage of two or more things to create something that's not there. So when you see a chair, what do you see? It's a mixture of it could be wood, it could be steel, and a geometric sitting shape, meaning a shape that allows a human being to sit. So it's a mixture of carving of maybe wood or shaping steel in a format that allows a human being to sit, and that hard substance which is a chair. So the innovation of a chair is mixing that shape that allows a human being to sit, and that hard substance could be steel, could be wood mainly. So you understand the context of this is that someone is just bringing wood and the carving of that wood to allow a human being to sit. So it's two things. So you can even mix it up. You can even add steel. You can even add plastic. So you understand from this context that innovation is a mixture of two or more things. So maybe let's keep this framework in mind of understanding innovation, it being a mixture of two or more things to create something that's usable for a human being, which a chair is usable for human beings because no other animals can sit comfortably on a chair, not even our cousins, the monkeys. As I promised, I will explain the adjacent possible furtherly with YouTube example. So when you look at YouTube, what do you see? It's what? Let's break down YouTube. YouTube mixes what? It mixes internet and it mixes video. So these are two different things. They are coming together and they are becoming a virtual tool. And this virtual tool is it's of utility. So video used to exist in a context of video cassettes, and internet also, comes from the other side. So now YouTube is the innovation that is YouTube. It's a marriage of internet and video. So when you marry the two, they make what? A virtual thing, something that was not there before, and then it becomes a virtual online streaming thing. Although YouTube was not the first online streaming tool, but it makes good example. There was Vimeo, there were others, but I guess YouTube is the one that really got successful. Okay, let me just run back to the chair example. Okay, so once you've got a chair, let's assume that a chair was a thing that was made first. So when you get a chair, what's the adjacent possible? What's like the nearest thing that can be created that would complement a chair? It's what? It's a table. So let's assume that chairs were made first. The making of a chair, the adjacent possible of a chair is what? It's tables. Like, I'm just giving a silly example. So understanding the adjacent possible is that when there was a chair, or when a chair was made with wood, the nearest possible thing that would complement the chair is what? Is a table. The other adjacent possible is what? That would complement a chair and a table is maybe utensils, spoons, forks. So that's that adjacent possible of a chair, if a chair was made before a table. I don't know, I'm just giving this silly example to sort of further illustrate the adjacent possible. So how YouTube came about, or rather let me further break down the YouTube example. As I said, YouTube is a mixture of, it's an online streaming platform, a video streaming platform rather. So it's a marriage of video and internet. So when you fuse those two things together, they give you video. So when we want to innovate, we always have to look at what's around us. What can we fuse with what is around? Because innovating is not a matter of thinking or using something that's not in existence yet. You use whatever is available, because you cannot create anything out of something that doesn't exist yet. So you take things that exist to create something that doesn't exist. In the case of YouTube, well, although it wasn't the first video streaming platform, even the first video streaming platform, it involved fusing internet and video. Those are two separate things. So you are fusing them and they create something more agile. So innovation has to follow an agile path. So you are staking or marrying two or more things to create something that's more agile. YouTube is, or rather a video online in the cloud, it's more agile than a video on a cassette tape, because with a virtual video, you can just store it on the cloud, take the link and send it to someone anywhere else in the world, and they'll get it instantly. Or in the case of YouTube, I upload a video on YouTube, so anyone in the world can access it. So innovation has to follow an agile path. When you combine those two or more things to innovate something that's not in existence, that thing, for it to be successful, is that it has to follow an agile path. Another example is with CDs. There was cassette tapes, and someone innovated a CD disc, and it was more agile than a cassette tape. And then from there on, someone took audio and then put it online, and we get a an MP3 format thing on that can be played on computers, and that, because it was more agile than a CD player, it replaced a CD player because it was more efficient. So that's the thing with innovation, it has to follow an agile path. So whatever you're combining or staking, their mixture has to create something more agile than the previous use. So the next thing that I'll be giving a highlight of is what I call enabling factors for products, for product success with adjacent possible, and I'll use majorly I'll use YouTube. The first factor is what I call behavioral utility. Behavioral utility links back to that any innovation, for it to be successful, it has to mirror our biological inclination. So with YouTube, why it got successful is because people were posting interesting videos, videos of animals, videos of like funny videos. So those videos hit a nerve in human beings. Maybe they were funny, maybe they were sad, but they had some sort of biological inclination. Remember, I said any innovation to be successful, it has to mirror our biology. So a funny video, because humor, it's an emotion, it's a biological emotion, it's a biological reaction. So that video has to mirror that inclination for it to be successful. So one of the factors that enabled YouTube to be successful was those videos that were being posted there, they had some sort of biological inclination, but I call them here behavioral utility. I mean, a funny thing has got utility for people. Biology explains anything that organisms do as behavior. Bacteria has got a certain behavior. Plants have got a certain behavior. They get energy from the sun and they produce oxygen. In the process called photosynthesis. So that's a behavior. All organisms have a behavior, and even human beings, we've got a behavior. And our mind, our gifted mind, it's a behavior as well. Our psychology is a behavior. It can innovate things. So it's a behavior. So any innovation, the first factor that it has to meet is that it has to have a behavioral utility. It has to meet a biological inclination. The second factor is that it's something that I just explained not so long ago. And innovation is the marriage of two more things to create something that's more agile. Like YouTuber said, is the marriage of the internet and video. So when you marry internet and video, it creates an online video, a video that you can stream. So it becomes more agile than video on a cassette tape. So innovations, they have to produce their stack or their use has to be agile for them to beat whatever innovation was before them. The third factor is location-specific adjacent possible advantage. So when YouTube came out, it had competition. There was Vimeo. The difference with YouTube is that it was giving out video streaming for free. So Vimeo had a sort of a paying model. There were videos that were free and there were others that you had to pay for. So the YouTube was, well, it still does. It allows everyone to view videos on it for free. So maybe, that's the other advantage that it has. Yeah, I've been speaking, so let me drink a bit of water. So the third factor is location-specific adjacent possible advantage. YouTube had competition. It had some competitors in the UK, but let me show you the advantage of YouTube. So in 2005, the USA had more internet users, which is about 68% of the population in 2005. That's when YouTube came out. YouTube came out in 2005. The USA had more internet users than all the population of okay, let me read it proper. In 2005, the USA had more internet users than all countries in the world. This is 223 million people, 223 million people. It was more people than any European country. So in 2005, the USA's population that used the internet was more than the population of all European countries. So imagine, say, someone creates a video streaming service that competes with YouTube, which is based in the USA. Same, maybe for example in the UK, that population, the internet using population, still is not more than the internet using population of the United States. So YouTube had a location advantage. The internet using population in the States had more people than any other country in the world, even in Europe, even in China. In 2005, China had an internet penetration of about 8.8%. That's about 114,000 people. So the advantage of YouTube is that in its home country, it had more people using the internet than the population of most countries. So you in the UK or you in South Africa starting a company that competes with YouTube in 2005, the USA plainly would beat you with the population. So that's another advantage when you're innovating something. The country that you are from, the base of people that can use your product. If it's an internet product, imagine China has got over a population over 1 billion people, and here maybe you are in South Africa creating a product that competes with a Chinese maybe online service. That Chinese company will beat you mainly because it's got more people and it's got more people using the internet, and that was the case with YouTube. So those are the three factors that enabled YouTube. Behavioral utility. The videos on YouTube had some sort of biological inclination that pleased people. YouTube's innovation was that it made video and internet, and it produced an agile tool. And the other one is location specific adjacent possible advantage. So it matters where you're studying a product or a company, which doesn't say you shouldn't study it at all. So I'm gonna explain, differentiate between innovations. Okay, so I describe innovation as anything that works, that is efficient, and that gives utility to humans. So it could be an old innovation or a new innovation. I just define it as innovation. Innovation is anything that works. It's not a matter of whether it's new or not. So I'm just giving, that's the context that I'm giving. So I give example, I say there's old innovation, there's novel innovation, meaning novel innovation, it's an innovation that's of something that has never been created before. So I'm just using the two to differentiate old innovation and novel innovation. But even a chair, an old chair, it's still innovation because it works. You can still sit on it. If it still works, it serves value to you, it serves utility to you, it's innovation, even though it's old innovation, but it is still innovation. That's the context I'm giving. And to give a distinction, when I say a novel innovation, I mean an innovation that's of something that has not been created before. So when we innovate, it's easy to tell whether whatever we're creating, has it been created or not. Let me give examples. Let's say someone innovated a chair, and it's a new innovation, meaning there was never a chair before. And then I come and say, okay, here's a chair. How do I innovate it? I can add another element to it. I can say, okay, I'm making a reclining chair, or I'm making a chair with wheels. So with that product, it means it's what? It's a novel innovation, and then the normal chair will just be an old innovation of a chair. Let me see here. So the main topics of this masterclass is, oops, I'll be back. All right. I'll be with you just now. Okay, how to become an innovator. So as I've explained, that innovation is the marriage of two or more things to create something that's useful to mankind, something that has not been created before. So how do you become an innovator? I gave an example of a chair. I said a chair it's a mixture of a hard substance, wood, and a geometric shape that lets a human being sit. So it's a marriage of those two things to create something that has not been there before. So for us to become innovators, we have to know more than one topic. So we have to do more than one discipline, because remember, innovation is a mixture of two different things to create something that's not been there before. Even with this topic that I'm talking about, it's kind of new in a context that I'm marrying a couple of topics, biology and explaining entrepreneurship. So it's kind of novel in a sense, in that I'm marrying two things. So I'm marrying more than two things. So it includes a lot of disciplines or informations that are unrelated in a sense. So I'm marrying a couple of topics. So for us to be innovators, we have to do a lot of things. We have to do more than one thing. So a lot of people have been in different careers, and that's how you become an innovator, because to see two separate worlds that can merge and create one thing, it takes you knowing those disciplines, you practicing those disciplines. So how we can become innovators is by doing more than one thing. And with that, it gives us insight into creating, or rather seeing the future in a way that others can't see it, because we can already see that if I marry this and that, it will create something that has not been there, like video streaming. So if I mix internet and video, it becomes something that's not been there, but it's something that's useful to people. So someone had an insight into video, and then they had an insight into how the internet works. So they married those two departments, and that's how video streaming came about. So innovation is that it takes practice, just dangling in a number of things, and you participating in those things. It will allow you to sort of see what can be created, because you create by marrying two things. So you'll have an insight into more than two worlds, and then you'll see, okay, if I fuse this and that, it can create something that's not been there before in the world. So that's how you sort of have a glance at the future. When you do more than one thing, or you are involved in more than one discipline, you can see patterns in ways that other people cannot see the world. And those innovations, they have to mirror our biology, meaning they have to have some sort of biologically, they have to mirror our biological inclinations. All innovations have to mirror our biological inclinations. Sometimes let me give example with steel mining. I don't see the direct benefit for me with steel mining, but I do recognize that steel produces products that help me out in whatever thing that I'm doing in innovations. I'm using a computer here. I'm sure it's got some steel. Even phones have got steel. So with that, I'm saying that anything that's in existence today gives us utility in some sort of way, and that utility, it's a biological inclination. Ice cream gives you utility. It gives you some sort of satisfaction. It gives you satisfaction because human beings have evolved to have a sweet tooth. So by our biology is that we like sweet things. Right. I'm just seeing what further examples I can give here. So innovation is that. It's exactly that. Marrying two things. I gave the example of YouTube. YouTube married internet and video, in creating something that's not been there before. Even, say, for example, the first chair. It was a marriage of someone shaping, I don't know, wood in a shape that allows human beings to sit, not lions, but human beings. So it gives utility to human beings. Marrying those two things gave them a chair, and even a table. The shape that it's designed in allows people to sit on a chair and eat from that table, or I don't know, work from that table. So innovation has to sort of give people utility, but again, it is a marriage of two or more things. So that's how you become an innovator. You indulge in two worlds, two disciplines or more, and marry those things to create something that's not being there before. So with all those things that I've explained, I can explain what the fourth industrial revolution is. So I'm just looking for an a Wikipedia explanation of the fourth industrial revolution, so I can also break it down. All right, because a lot of people struggle with understanding the fourth industrial revolution, which is just simple. It's just innovation going forward, because human beings, we've got that kind of mind. Biology gave us that kind of mind that allows us to innovate further and further and further. You'll see by what I meant when I said innovation is the marriage of two or more worlds. Okay, so the Wikipedia explains the fourth industrial revolution as, it says, the fourth industrial revolution is characterized by a fusion of technologies that is blurring the lines between physical, digital, and biological spheres, collectively referred as to the cyber-physical systems. It is marked by emerging technology breakthroughs in a number of fields, including robotics, artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, quantum computing, biotechnology, the Internet of Things, the Industrial Internet of Things, and the fifth generation wireless technologies, which is 5G, the notorious 5G. So even the explanation of the fourth industrial revolution, it says it's a fusion of different technologies. So it's also a marriage of industries that someone wouldn't think they could marry and create something new. For example, biotechnology. What is biotechnology? It's simply mixing biology with technology. It's simply that. What's that? I just forget an example that I wanted to give. What's that thing? Is it cardiac something? Like a machine that people that have got problems with the heart, they install it so that it can regulate heartbeats. That's mixing technology with biology and curing lives. Recently, a Pretoria professor performed the first 3D ear transplant. So they created this bones with 3D printers that otherwise nothing would sort of create such bones. So it's mixing what medicine and technology. You're taking 3D printing and you're mixing it with biology. So it's the same explanation I gave, that innovation is just the mixing of two or more things. And sometimes those things seem unrelated, like YouTube mixed internet with video. I'll give examples of products that are sort of defined in the fourth industrial revolution context. Cryptocurrency. Well, cryptocurrency is just money. Money is an old innovation. It's been with the world for a number of years, and also it has been evolving from us bartering, a barter exchange, to creating markets where we can still barter, to creating gold, exchanging value through gold, to creating gold certificates, to creating fiat currency, which is the currency that we have now. Okay, I'm gonna end the Instagram video and restart it because I think it's already hit an hour now. But I've got another camera that's recording this. Then I will upload it maybe next week. I'm just starting the Instagram video. Where do I go for live? All right. So cryptocurrency is that it's mirroring the concept of money with crypto technology, which is like an encryption kind of technology that it's hard to, I don't know, forge. So you're taking the concept of money, which is an old concept, and you adding the crypto concept, and you also adding internet, which gives you cryptocurrency. So the cryptocurrency is an innovation that mixes a whole set of concepts that have been in the works for a long time. And the other one is genetic testing, wherein you can there are these genetic testers. You spit saliva on them on a chip, and then through there they can, analyze your DNA, your ancestry, and also that's fusing of what, of microarray chips data, because biology is, or rather microbiology, they've sort of been able to detail or put DNA, human DNA, into scrutiny to a point wherein they've got like data on it. So maybe they see it as data through. So with a genetic tester, those microchips, they are able to analyze your DNA through as data, and tell you your ancestry, your race, and what mixes of races are you. So again, with genetics testing, it's just combining a number of different innovations to create something that's more agile. Let me see, virtual assistants like like Alexa, like Siri. It's mixing voice recognition and what? It's mixing voice recognition and let me see. Yeah, like virtual assistants, they're mixing. It's a mix of many innovations, because innovation, after all, it's a mixture of different other innovations. Let me see. And with those voice prompts, you can get your virtual assistant to do a number of things. Siri, find my. Okay, Okay, all right. I don't know. Find location, or open Google Maps, whatever. It's just a mixture of different other innovations or technologies into one. So that's what the fourth industrial revolution is. It's a fusion of different technologies or disciplines of innovations. Just now they are describing it in this era that we were in. The first industrial revolution was also a term describing an era of industrial, rather maybe the first industrial world was what they call the first industrial revolution. Even the second industrial revolution was just explaining the era that was then, that of the different technologies that were there. Even the third and the fourth one even goes deeper. We've got internet, we've got 5G, we've got 3D printing. So that's that. It's not a hard concept. So even the fifth industrial revolution, when it comes, it will be describing other innovations, because as human beings, we innovate on and on and on. We don't stop. That's the thing with us. We just keep innovating. So innovation is that just fusing a couple of innovations to create something that's not there. Any, like, to understand any other, even Facebook, you can describe it. It's a simple concept. It's Facebook. Okay, all right. Someone is taking the concept of a community, they bring it online, well, to the internet. So you're taking the concept of community, bring it online. You're adding what? The taking of pictures, and you're bringing it live also. So that's that. So I think with this, I've said a mouthful. It's just a whole array of information that just a lot. So it answers that how do you become an innovator? You must indulge in more than one thing. So the thing I have to stress is that it's not theoretical. You can't just do the theory, studying different things. You have to do some of the things. You have to do a lot of things. You could be producing music, being a DJ, writing, anything. Like, do something. When you do, you learn other things that you discover things when you're doing them. And when when you're doing things and you discover other things, you know what to do with them. Just think, for example, the famous Isaac Newton example is that an apple fell from a tree and hit him, and he realized, oh, okay, so there must be some force that's pulling these apples to the earth. And I'm sure a lot of people have had, experienced things falling off trees, fruits, whatever. But because Sir Isaac Newton was on a scientific mission, meaning he was on the move, he knew what to do with that sort of discovery. So you discover better when you do, because then you know what to do with those things. The guy who discovered penicillin. Penicillin has been used to treat wounds, like in making different kinds of medicines. It was an accident. Apparently he went away, and when he came back to his lab, a mold had formed. Because he was a scientist on the move who was doing things, he could analyze what that mold meant, and then that's how he discovered penicillin. And then with that, he took it to, trying to see what it can do in terms of what medicinal value does it have. And then penicillin went on to become a drug that is used for different to treat different medical conditions. But his discovery, he knew what to do with that discovery because he was on the move. He was doing something. When you're doing something and you discover what it can do, you know what to do with it. Unlike someone who just discovers something and they're not doing anything, they wouldn't know what to do with that sort of discovery. So doing things helps you discover things. You see things in a different way. So to become an innovator, you need to do more than one thing. That's how you innovate the future. You take the different disciplines that you are engaged in, and then you can connect them and create something that's new. Kind of like cryptocurrency, it's a new thing. It's a fusing of different disciplines. Internet, the concept of money, and crypto technology. So it's a fusion of those things. So fusing those things, whoever created it had an understanding that, or rather an insight onto all those three disciplines, and then forming those things into one, or making them into one thing, they produce something that's not been there before. And the other thing, that's how innovation mirrors biology. For it to be successful, it has to mirror biology. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Meaning, it has to give a satisfaction to people. It has to add some sort of efficiency to people. So, understanding the 4IR is simply that it's a measure of different things or different technologies to create something that's never been there before. That's the same explanation of innovation. It's just that fourth industrial revolution, like all the other industrial revolution, is discoveries of new technologies. But those two new technologies are discovered through mixing things that were not there before. And I think with that, I will end this masterclass. Let me see, because this thing has got a lot of examples just there, but some are all right. Let me see. Yeah, I think on that note, I will end the masterclass. Otherwise, you can get any of my books on my blog, tiisetsomaloma.com, or on Amazon. They are on a special